Next assembly we're going to discuss is made from ARI. ARI is a company that makes a double check and an RP in sizes 3/4 and 1 inch presently. They received approvals on those around early 2009. They should have the 1.5 inch and through 2 inch in larger sizes, probably late 2010, maybe early 2011. Anyway, here's the double check model DC 500, and here's the RP model RP 500. The double, as you can see, it's an inline check design. It is a nylon plastic body. This is a 3/4 inch version. You can see they just have a different flange on the end. It's the same body on 3/4 and 1. All they did is change the adapters for the different nipples coming at the side. You can see the clamp right here that holds those two together. So there's the double check version. Here's the RP version. I'll take the RP apart since the checks are the same. There is a relief valve drain that's attached to it that just pops off from the bottom like this. Repair, there's going to be 6 bolts on the top. They are a screw that goes into a plastic body, so you want to be very careful when you go to tightening these that you don't strip the body. Once you remove the bolts from the single access cover, meaning there's one cover for both checks and the relief, only one cover for all, there will be spring tension from the relief valve underneath, so the cover will come out first, then the relief valve stem, then the relief valve spring. So that's where the relief valve sits in the center of those check mechanisms. The retainer comes out from the top next, which exposes the 2 check assemblies. First check. Anytime you have an inline check design like this, it's very important to make sure that, obviously with this one it's no problem, but making sure in line that the test cocks are open so that when you go to pull that check out of the body, you don't rip it apart on the inside by creating a vacuum on the back side. First check assembly comes out here, then second check assembly. Come out from the back side like this. Relief valve spring just pushes in from the body. You can put sealed by an O-ring, comes out like that. Okay, so this is what it looks like inside the body. Our retainer sits like this. You'll notice the retainer has a cut on the bottom half of that. That's in case there is actually a failure on the first check, whether it be double check or RP. Other check designs like this that have that first check stem protrude backwards. What happens if that stem protrudes backwards and there's a rock or something in there? You're not able to get that stem out if that was fully covered on the back. So by placing that slot, even with the first check failure, the retainer will come out. Let's go ahead and do the relief valve first. Here's our relief valve spring, stem, and cover. We have a guide O-ring on the top, just like we've seen in some other designs like that, with our little breather hole in the cover. One screw holds the top of our relief valve stem together. We have our guide O-ring. We have our upper diaphragm plate and our diaphragm and our stem. Reassembly is going to be just the reverse. Make sure the diaphragm's in the right way where the recess is sitting in the retainer. And one screw back on top. O-ring has to be properly lubricated, like all O-rings. You don't leave it on place and lubricate it. You take it off, rub it between your fingers to rub, get the grease all the way around it. The relief valve disc on the bottom stretches out of the disc holder. In other words, you don't disassemble the bottom of the stem, but the disc just pulls out and stretches out of the holder. And that's how we can rebuild our relief valve stem for the RP 500 series. Now back to the check mechanisms, but they're sitting in there like this. The relief valve spring sits here. The relief valve stem sticks on top of that and goes through the center. So that's kind of what it looks like inside the body. But let's go ahead and talk about the check assemblies now. If you do a close-up on the check assemblies, you'll see that there's 3 little clips right here on each side. I'll take the second check apart to show you. And to disassemble the checks, we have to push in and pull up on that, all 3 of them. 2, and then final third one over here. And then the check assembly will come apart in one piece. We have our spring retainer, our spring, our disc holder, and our check seat, and our seat O-ring, which seals the check assembly into the body. To repair the check assembly, the disc just stretches out of the holder, put the new disc back in place. Reassembly is going to be just the reverse. Check assembly, spring. Now here's those 3 little ears that you saw that I pushed on the screwdriver. You see up close on that how that looks. So those 3 ears right there, there, and there, correspond to the 3 holes on the outside of the seat. See right there? So we have to make sure when we put it together that we line it up so the 3 little knobs right there correspond to a hole. And when you push it together, I'm going to put it next to the microphone so you can hear it. You should have that clicking sound. It should clip together very securely so you know it's in place. You don't want that coming apart, so make sure you've got it in place, wiggle back and forth, check each of the 3 ears and the clips to make sure it's properly put back into the body. Reassembling back into the body. Go ahead and put our check assembly in first. Make sure we've got all the way back in. Second check, now the first check goes in next. Making sure we have that all the way back in there so the retainer will go on, because if you don't get it all the way in, guess what? The retainer will not go down through the center. The cut half goes towards the first check. Don't have the way in. Then the retainer will go in from the top. Again, make sure both checks are in securely. Relief valve spring sits here. Relief valve stem through the center of the spring. With all diaphragm assemblies like this, highly suggested you put all of the screws all the way around first of all. This is just a demo version, so I won't do that, but here's our high pressure sensing line. Make sure the O-ring is mounted there so we have a water seal on that when we go to tighten the cover back on. Tightening our covers, screws, and that's the RP Model 500 series from ARI. RP and the DCV 500 series double check. New model on the market, this relatively new. Again, sizes 3/4 and 1 for now. Larger sizes to come out late 2010 or late 2011. They utilized a UV resistant plastic material, which makes it unique from the bronze body assemblies we're used to seeing. And again, with all the concerns with lead bronze, they're trying to go after a market where their plastic material will help adapt that. Plastic does have a UV resistant characteristic to it, so it won't be deteriorating in the sun, and they have a strength characteristic. So, because a lot of time with the earlier plastic models, the glass, the nylon ones, these pieces used to break off, but you'll notice that it's very heavy. So they've kind of taken what the older models, specifically BAVCO and some other people that have tried to make the nylon bodied RP and double checks available and tried to improve on it. So anyway, these are the products from ARI that we have today, new products to be coming out in the future. Keep an eye out on them. The next manufacturer we're going to discuss is known as BEECO. It can also be known as Hersey. You may see both names on models that they've produced over the years. The company's had several name changes over the years. The original company was called the EC Service Company, which was 2 gentlemen by the name of Enderton and Carlton that formed the company, which later became BEECO, which was Backflow Engineering and Equipment Company, which was later bought by another company called Hersey, who makes water meters to this day. So you may see any of those 3 designations on that particular assembly. The first model we're going to discuss in the BEECO name is the BEECO Model 6, or the Model 6U. U stood for underwriters, which had a fire rating for it. The Model 6 was produced in sizes 1.5 through 10 inch. Valve is no longer in production and parts are no longer available. It was produced from about 1948 to about 1978. And this particular assembly is an especially important footnote because it's actually the first patented RP. In fact, all RPs that are sold on the market today are based after this basic design. So this was the very first production of an RP, and this is the one that everybody uses today, basically, and same basic construction, or working construction, I should say, not necessarily the construction, but the design concept. Here's an example of the Model 6. First of all, it's a galvanized body that was, cast iron body that was galvanized coated. Before we had the epoxy coatings, this was the original coatings that appeared on most backflow assemblies. Galvanizing being a sacrificial coating, obviously, once the coating was eaten away, it rusted rapidly in the water passageway. This particular assembly weighs about 210 pounds. As you can see, I have trouble moving it. You'll notice that on the edge it's got a 4-inch flange. This is a 2-inch RP. They had to have an oversized inlet to get enough 2-inch water through it. The check assemblies, I'm going to take the first check out real quick. That's the first check out of that assembly, which is as big as some of the 2-inch RPs on the market today. Had to have special sockets in order to thread this in and thread this out of the body just like that. And again, it could not be repaired in line. It had to be dropped out of the flange, taken check assemblies out this way, relief valve from the bottom, taking it apart. There are no more rubber repair parts available for this assembly. So it makes a great little footnote valve because it's the first modern RP, first patent for RP that all RPs on the market today have been built after. This happened to be a 2-inch assembly, again, approximately 210 pounds, as you can see, nice heavy assembly. A 10-inch assembly on this weighs about 4,600 pounds. Can you imagine how hard it was putting assemblies in way back then? So I wanted to show this to you as a footnote. No more repair parts available. This is the BAVCO Model 6.